Autism has become an epidemic.
I think autism is.
I believe it's like a learning disability to some extent. That's my degree of knowledge.
Autism is a developmental disorder that have not socially developed or psychologically developed.
I would say autism would probably be,
For me, autism is, from what I'm aware from the education I find, is a condition in which a person isn't fully, I don't know, conditioned mentally, I guess. They grow up with a disability where they're not able to function in society as well as
Autism, I would say autism is a mental disability that affects a lot of people and makes it and it's a disability that affects some people and it makes it hard for them to maybe learn specific things and interact with people.
What do you think autism is?
What I know, autism is developmental disability. It impacts, I think, mostly like social functions with people.
I would think that it's, like from what I know, it's like a disability. That's really, like, I don't know what type of disability though.
I don't exactly know. I just know it's a special needs, so they need extra.
I would say that autism is, I know there's like a spectrum that if people fall on a specific part of the spectrum. And some people have difficulty controlling their, the way that they act sometimes. But I wouldn't say I know enough about it too.
Another article from Washington Post goes over an individual, Paul Corby, who needed a heart transplant in order to live. However, he was rejected for a heart transplant in 2011 because of his autism and several other psychological conditions. The University of Pennsylvania stated that he was denied because of his, and I quote, psychiatric issues, autism, the complexity of the process, and the unknown and unpredictable effect of steroids on behavior. They deemed he had a lower quality of life because of his autism. This is a form of discrimination against those with autism. He isn't a unique case, as transplant teams have full autonomy when it comes to denying anyone for a transplant. Many organizations are trying to fight this discrimination, but the bias against those with mental disabilities is still rather prominent in the medical profession. What is autism? Autism, or autism spectrum disorder, refers to a range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech and nonverbal communication, and by unique strengths and differences. The word spectrum in autism spectrum disorder is supposed to reflect the wide variations in each person with autism. The most obvious signs that a person can see when it comes to autism tend to appear between 2 and 3 years of age and as early as 18 months. Now, the autism spectrum, some of the things. So, one is social challenges. Many children who develop autism have difficulty understanding everyday human interactions. Both children and adults with autism also tend to have difficulty interpreting what others are thinking and feeling. Many people with autism have difficulty seeing things from another person's perspective, and it can be common for those with autism to have difficulty regulating emotions. Second is communication difficulties. Young children with autism tend to be delayed when it comes to speaking and gestures. Other children experience significant language delays and don't begin to speak until much later. Those who are nonverbal or nearly nonverbal learn to use communication systems such as pictures, sign language, electronic, word processors, or even speech-generating devices. When language does not begin to develop in the child may use speech in unusual ways. Another common difficulty is the inability to understand body language, tone of voice, and expressions that aren't meant to be taken literally. A third is repetitive behaviors, which are unusual repetitive behaviors and a tendency to engage in a restricted range of activities are another symptom of the autism spectrum. Fourth is genetic disorders. Some children who have autism have a genetic condition that can affect the brain's development. Some gene disorders appear to affect 15 to 20% of those with ASD. Number one is seizure disorders. And seizure disorders can occur in as many as 39% of those with autism, but is more common in those who have it, an intellectual disability than those without. And finally, sensory processing problems. Many people with autism have unusual responses to sensory input, which can include a difficulty processing and integrating sensory information, such as sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and or movement. All of these symptoms do not affect everyone or don't affect everyone the same when it comes to autism spectrum disorder.
Right. It's like, what words come to mind when you hear about it?
Well, they're usually not positive. I usually think of the one word that really comes to my mind is social awkwardness, and maybe slow, and that's not the word.
Misunderstood. I think a lot of people think people with autism are not smart, which is not true.
Asperger's syndrome back in like ninth grade or whatever. That's always what I think of. And then I don't know. There's like the little puzzle piece thing. Those are images that come to my head. But
It made me think of the Embrace the R Word campaign we had in high school. We all signed a big poster to embrace the R Word for describing people that have like autism or a mental disability.
All right, thank you.
So oftentimes people associate others with autism as being like loud and like destructive, but that's not like always the case.
General rule of thumb regarding individuals in the autistic community is, first and foremost, don't ask them if they have autism. I'm often asked if I have autism, and it's really not highly appreciated because many people, now personally I don't mind, but many people in the autistic community really do mind because they're afraid of some discrimination they might receive and often have received from being a member of that community. So, and also if someone does tell you they have autism, do not all of a sudden go to proceed to ask a lot of questions about that, because they might not feel comfortable explaining that to you, because it is, I'll admit, often a very uncomfortable topic. If they offer, that's a different story. In general, a good rule of thumb I'd say about treating members of the autistic community would be don't ask them any questions about their autism that you wouldn't ask a member of the LGBTQ community about their gender identity or sexuality, because it is a very sensitive topic that's prone to a lot of stereotypes. And on the subject of stereotypes, I had asked that you refrain from either making universal positive or negative statements about people with autism, because every person with autism is different. Of course there's bad people with autism. There's also a lot of great people with autism, just like there is about any group of people. And I mean, I do appreciate sometimes when you do try to say nice things about people with autism, but don't generalize and assume it's true of all people with autism, because then you can also generalize bad things about people with autism, because every person with autism is different, so that is wrong. Like if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. It affects every person differently. In addition, autistic people often struggle to be accepted in the workforce, although some companies such as Procter & Gamble have actually started making extra efforts to hire people on the autism spectrum, which is appreciated. Also, sadly, autistic people often have issues with police brutality, because they often fail to have the communication skills, not always, but a lot of times, that neurotypical people do. This often confuses police who, because of inadequate training, are more likely to use violence against members of the autistic community. This particularly applies to autistic people of color or autistic people in the LGBTQ community, who, because of the stereotypes against both of their groups, are often subject to even more violence in general and police brutality than just other people on the autism spectrum.
Many people are misinformed on what autism is. Many people have an implicit bias towards people who have autism. Most people have a negative first reaction towards autism simply because they do not know what it is. Everyone is different, and we should respect and value each individual human for who they are. And in the words of Carrie Margot, autism can't define me, I define autism.